In the previous class, we have seen about the functioning of heart. In today's class, we are going to learn about how the heart rate is controlled or how the functioning of heart is controlled. So it is also called as regulation of heartbeat or regulation of heart rate. And heartbeat regulation is achieved by two ways. One is intrinsic way, another one is extrinsic way. And the intrinsic way consists of sinoatrial node, auriculoventricular node, and Purkinje fibers, bundle of his, all those things. This intrinsic way of regulating heartbeat is the normal way, and we have seen it. We have seen about it in the previous class itself. So, how the heart functions usually is an example for intrinsic way of heartbeat regulation. So whenever there is no abnormal condition in our body, heartbeat will be controlled by this intrinsic pathway only. So an intrinsic pathway does not require the external factors. External factors like external factors are two types. One is neural factors, another one is hormonal factors. So the intervention of these hormonal factors, neural factors is not required when everything is normal in our body. So when everything is normal, heartbeat will be controlled by intrinsic way. And in intrinsic way, SAN is very, very important one. This SAN only generates the impulses that are required for the functioning of heart. But whenever there is abnormalities are there, then extrinsic way of regulating heartbeat or extrinsic way of regulating heart rate comes into picture. And this extrinsic regulation of heartbeat or heart rate is of two types. One is neural regulation, another one is hormonal regulation. Let us see about these two types of regulation mechanisms of heartbeat or heart rate. Before that, we have to know the meanings of cardiac output and heart rate and stroke volume. So stroke volume is very, very important one. What is the stroke volume? It is abbreviated form of the stroke volume is SV. So this is measured by this formula EDV minus ESV. EDV stands for end diastolic volume and ESV stands for end systolic volume. So we know that what happens in diastole. In diastole, the ventricles. So the EDV and ESV, these are regarding the ventricular EDV, ventricular ESV. So during the diastole phase, what happens? Ventricles will be in relaxed position, and right from the beginning of the diastole stage to at the end of the diastole phase. So throughout this phase, it will be receiving blood from the auricles. Ventricles will be receiving blood from the auricles in this diastole phase. So end diastolic volume means whenever the ventricles are filled with blood. So the maximum blood will be present in the ventricles at the end of the diastole period, at the end of the diastole phase. So that is called as end diastolic volume. So volume means the quantity. So how much blood is present in the ventricles at the end of the diastole is called as EDV, end diastolic volume. So this is the maximum volume or maximum amount of blood present in the ventricles. And ESV, end systolic volume. So as soon as the systole is started, blood will be pumped out of these ventricles into the two main arteries. One is pulmonary artery, another one is left systemic artery. So into these two arteries, blood will be pumped at the beginning of systole. Once the systole is finished, what happens? Pumping blood out of the ventricles into these arteries will be finished. So once the systole is finished, some amount of blood will be there some amount of blood will be there in the ventricles. So what you have to remember at this point is that ventricles are not pumping all the blood that is present inside the ventricles. Okay, so total blood is not going to come out of ventricles during the systole phase. Most of the blood goes out, but some blood will remain in the ventricles. So the amount of blood that is present at the end of the systole is called as end systolic value. So end diastolic volume, it will be having maximum amount of blood. Okay, maximum amount of blood will be there at the end of the diastole. At the end of the systole, minimum amount of blood will be there. So the difference in between these two values makes the stroke value. So in each stroke or in each heartbeat, how much amount of blood is going out of the ventricles is called as stroke volume. And the stroke volume in normal conditions is equivalent to 70 milliliters, 70 ml. So the meaning of stroke volume is this. So stroke volume is the amount of blood that comes out of the ventricles in each stroke or in each heartbeat. This is equal to 70 milliliters under normal conditions. And what is heart rate? So heart rate is nothing but the number of beats per minute that are taking place in an individual. So we know that normal adult persons, the heart rate value will be around 72 to 75 times. So in normal adults, heart beats 72 times per minute. So that is the heart rate. And heart rate is not uniform in all persons. It will be changing depending on autonomic innervation, hormonal effects, fitness levels, and age. We know that normal newborn babies, heart rate will be 120 times per minute. So in the newly born babies, heart beats 120 times a minute. So like this, as the age goes on, this what happens, the heart rate will be decreasing. When the baby reaches adult stage, the heart rate will be around 72 times. And at in the elderly persons, in the old age persons, it will be around it will be between 60 to 72, 60 to 70, in between 60 to 72. So like this, normal range of heart rate is considered as 60 to 100. So even though if it is 60, even though if your heart is beating 60 times a minute, it is not considered as a abnormal. So 60 times is okay, and up to 100 times is also okay. Above the 100 times is abnormal conditions, and below the 60 times is also abnormal condition. If the heart beats in a minute, 60 times to 100 times is normal. So 60 to 100 is the normal range of heart rate. And this rate changes with age and fitness levels, and hormonal effects also will be there. And autonomic innervation means neuronal control also will change the heart rate depending on the situation. And the stroke volume also will be affected by the heart size, fitness levels, gender. In males and females it will be different, and contractility of the heart muscles and duration of contraction, and preload, how much amount entered into the ventricles. So, and afterload, how much resistance is given by the ventricle walls. All these factors affect the stroke value. And what is cardiac output? So cardiac output is nothing but the amount of blood that is coming out of the heart in a minute is called as cardiac output. So heart rate, we have seen that under normal adults, it is 72. And in each time, stroke volume is 70 ml. So 72 into 70 ml, it is around 5 liters 40 ml. So we know that in normal adults, the quantity of blood, the amount of blood will be around 5 liter. So in a minute of time, all the blood that is present in our body is passing through the heart. So the total blood is passing through the heart in a minute of time only. So that is cardiac output. So cardiac output is the amount of blood that is coming out of the heart or that is coming out of the ventricles in a minute of time is considered as cardiac output. And this cardiac output is very, very important. Why? Because This is the amount of blood coming out of the heart is directly related to the supplying of nutrients, oxygen, and required materials to all the tissues. If the cardiac output is low, what happens? The tissues will be receiving less amount of nutrients, less amount of oxygen. Okay. So that's why cardiac output should be under normal range. So, and this is directly related to heart rate. So if the heart rate is in normal range and the stroke volume is also normal, then cardiac output will be normal. So cardiac output should be around 5 liters a minute. So if the cardiac output or heart rate or heartbeats time, heartbeats number, if all these values are normal, we can assume that heart is functioning normally. So if heart rate is decreased or if the heart rate is increased, that is going to either decrease the cardiac output or increase the cardiac output than the normal range. And the change in the cardiac output, whether it could be very low than the normal range or it could be very high than the normal range, both these two conditions are not good for the individual. That may lead to the death of the individual also. So for that purpose, the cardiac output or heart rate should be controlled. So when the intrinsic pathway is not functioning properly, then what happens? Then the extrinsic factors take control of the heart functioning. So in the extrinsic factors, first of all, let us see the neuronal factors or neural control. So in the neural control, autonomic nervous system is responsible for the heartbeat regulation in neural control. So in autonomic nervous system, we know that two components will be there in autonomic nervous system. One is sympathetic nervous system, another one is parasympathetic nervous system. So here the first diagram in this diagram, so the yellow thing, this is nothing but this is the brain part. So in this brain part, in the brainstem region will be there. In the brainstem region, some center will be there that regulates the heartbeat. So from that region, vagus nerve will arise. So these two fibers are vagus nerve. So two vagus nerves will be there. So in these two things, right vagus nerve directly is coming and it is in being in contact with the SAN, sinoatrial node. So this right fiber of the vagus nerve, a right branch of the vagus nerve is directly in contact with the SA node or SAN, and left branch of this vagus nerve is in contact with the AV node. So both these two nerves, both these two branches of vagus nerve are in contact with this SAN node, SA node and AV node. So whenever this is called as parasympathetic nervous system. So vagus nerve is a part of parasympathetic nervous system, and vagus nerve will intervene the heartbeat functioning when the heartbeat goes above the normal range. So when the heart beats fastly, then this parasympathetic nervous system, it will release acetylcholine. Acetylcholine is a neurotransmitter. So this acetylcholine neurotransmitter will be released by these parasympathetic fibers which are present in this vagus nerve, and this acetylcholine regulates the SCA node functioning, so that SCA node will generate lesser amount of signals or lesser amount of impulses. So that what happens, increased heartbeat rate will be dropped, and that brings the heartbeat rate to the normal again. So in this way, parasympathetic nervous system is present in the vagus nerves, and these vagus nerves are in direct contact with this SCA node and AV node. Thus, whenever the heartbeat is increased beyond normal range, then this center in the brainstem, the center in the brainstem, it is inhibitory center. So this inhibitory center, it will release signals through this vagus nerve or parasympathetic nerves, and these nerves will release acetylcholine, and this acetylcholine acts on this SCA node and AV node. As a result, SCA node and AV node, they will release less amount of impulses so that heartbeat rate will become normal. So in this way, parasympathetic nervous system will intervene when the heartbeat increases. Okay. And another one is sympathetic nervous system. Okay. In autonomic nervous system, parasympathetic and sympathetic two components will be there. Parasympathetic is present in vagus nerves and it helps in the reduction of heartbeat rate. So when the heartbeat rate is high than the normal range, then parasympathetic nervous system takes charge and it will decrease the heartbeat rate to bring it back to normal range. And what happens when at certain times heartbeat rate may be below the normal range? At that times, this sympathetic nervous system comes into picture, and this sympathetic nervous system will try to increase the heartbeat rate. And the sympathetic nervous system, in sympathetic nervous system, in the this what from the vertebral column T1 to T5, some thoracic vertebrae will be there. Thoracic vertebrae, the vertebrae which are present in the thoracic region are called thoracic vertebrae. So in this thoracic vertebrae, around 12 to 13 vertebrae will be there. In these vertebrae, from the first vertebrae, what happens? These fibers will come out of these vertebrae. Inside this vertebrae, what we will be having? We will be having the spinal cord. Okay. So T1 to T5 vertebrae, out of those vertebrae, nerve fibers will come out of the spinal cord, and these fibers, they are a part of the sympathetic nervous system. And these 5 pairs of sympathetic nerves, they will, okay, they come from this you can see this is the spinal cord. So from the spinal cord, 5 pairs of nerves will come out of the spinal cord from the T1 vertebrae to T5 vertebrae. And all these fibers, they come in contact with this heart conduction system, that is AV node, SA node, and AV node. And in each fiber, some 3 parts will be there: superior fibers, middle fibers, and inferior fibers. So all these fibers, 3 fibers will be there, and these 3 fibers, they will preganglionic fibers will be there. Later, they will form a ganglion, and from this ganglion, postganglionic fibers will be there. So these postganglionic fibers, they will come and join with this heart conduction system. In heart conduction system, SA node will be there, AV node will be there, and Purkinje fibers, bundle of this. So all these things are in contact with this sympathetic nerve fibers also. So what we have to remember here is that this heart conduction system is in contact with parasympathetic nervous system or vagus nerves, and the heart conduction system is in contact with sympathetic nerve fibers also. Sympathetic nerve fibers are coming from spinal cord, especially in the T1 to T5 spinal cord region, and parasympathetic nervous system, it is a part of vagus nerve, 10th cephalic nerve. So these 2 fibers, okay, this vagus nerve or parasympathetic nervous system and sympathetic nervous system, these will regulate the heartbeat rate. So how this heartbeat rate will be regulated by nervous system or neuronal control, how it is achieved? So brain is not directly, it cannot know that what heartbeat rate is increased or heartbeat rate is decreased. How it will know? Somebody has to tell it that heartbeat rate is increased or heartbeat rate is decreased. So just simply by being in the brain region, brain cannot know. Okay, brain will be inside our head, but it has to receive information from some receptors or some nerve fibers, sensory nerve fibers. So brain has to receive information from sensory nerves. Then only brain will come to know what is happening inside our body. If the sensory fibers or if the sensory nerves will not send any information to the brain, then brain will not know anything. Okay, without knowing anything, it will not do nothing. So that's why brain has to receive information to regulate the heartbeat rate. So if the heartbeat rate increase, that information has to be sent to the brain. when receiving this information, then only the inhibitory center in the brain will activated, that will send signals through the vagus nerve to decrease the heartbeat rate. And some sensory nerves, they have to send information to the brain that heartbeat rate is decreased. When brain receives that information that heartbeat rate is decreased than the normal condition, then only the brain will activated, the acceleratory center in the brain will activated, and that will send signals through the sympathetic nervous system to increase the heartbeat rate. So how these things are informations, these informations are sent to the brain is through this, some receptors will be there. Here in this picture, we are seeing baroreceptors. These yellow dotted things are baroreceptors. So two types of baroreceptors are present in two regions. So this is the left systemic aorta. Okay, this is left systemic aorta coming from left ventricle. So in between these two carotid arteries, okay, from these two carotid arteries will arise, and in between two carotid arteries, some receptors will be there. So these receptors are called baroreceptors. Again, in the internal carotid, so these two carotid arteries, upon going up towards the brain region, going towards the brain region, they will bifurcate into two branches. One is external carotid artery. This is external. This one is also external. And inside ones are internal carotid arteries. So in the internal carotid arteries, at the base of these internal carotid arteries, they will be having a bulb-like structure, or they are swollen to make it into a bulb-like structure. So in this these are called as carotid sinuses. So in this carotid sinuses also, carotid baroreceptors will be there. Carotid sinus baroreceptors will be there. So two types of baroreceptors are there. So one is aortic baroreceptors, second one is carotid baroreceptors. So what they will do, they will receive the information regarding the pressure of the blood. So blood will be flowing in these left aortic artery and these carotid arteries. So when the blood is flowing through these things, the blood pressure will be collected by these receptors. So when every time these baroreceptors, they will be generating some amount of nerve impulses or action potentials. So that action potentials will be sent to the brain through this ninth nerve, glossopharyngeal nerve. Ninth cephalic nerve is called as glossopharyngeal nerve. So through this ninth nerve, these sinuses and 10th nerve, vagus nerve. So in vagus nerve, afferent and efferent fibers will be there. So the afferent fibers, they will send information regarding the blood pressure from these receptors, aortic receptors. So 10th nerve, vagus nerve is collecting information regarding the blood pressure from this left aorta, left systemic aorta. And ninth nerve, ninth cephalic nerve or glossopharyngeal nerve is collecting information of blood pressure from this carotid sinuses. So these two receptors, carotid receptors and aortic baroreceptors, these two types of baroreceptors, every time they will be generating action potentials. So these action potentials will be normal when the blood pressure is normal. If the blood pressure is high, then action potential quantity also will be increased. And when the blood pressure is low, then the action potentials generated by these receptors also will be low. So depending upon the quantity of this action potential, brain will come to know whether blood pressure is increased or blood pressure is decreased. So when the blood pressure is increased, brain take action to decrease the blood pressure. Then what happens? This parasympathetic nerve comes into picture through vagus nerve. Brain sends acetylcholine to this SCA node, AB node, so that functioning of our heartbeat rate will be decreased. When heartbeat rate is decreased, automatically blood pressure will come to normal. When the blood pressure is low, then what happens? Brain will receive that information through this vagus nerve and through this ninth nerve. Okay, so and through the sympathetic nervous system, it will send signals to the AV node, SA node to increase the heartbeat rate. So that decreased blood pressure will increase again. So in this way, brain is knowing the blood pressure, whether it is high or whether it is low than normal range, through the help of these baroreceptors. So with the help of these baroreceptors only, this neuronal control is being made possible. Okay. So, and what we have to remember is that this heartbeat regulation is a part of homeostasis, whole homeostasis mechanism. So it is not a individual mechanism. It is a part of total complete homeostasis mechanism. Why? Because heartbeat rate is directly related to respiratory function also. Okay, respiratory function also. It is related to respiratory function also. So this blood circulation, respiration, all these things are interrelated. So that's why it is considered as regulating heartbeat is a part of homeostasis only. So when the increased blood pressure is there, baroreceptors, they will fire high amount of signal. So arrow mark is above, in above direction. Okay, in up direction, upward direction. So when increased blood pressure is there, baroreceptors will release lot of action potentials. That what it will do, it will inhibit, it will activate the inhibitory center, cardiac inhibitory center in the brain. Then what happens? They will send signals to decrease the heartbeat rate. Then what happens? Blood pressure comes to normal range. Blood pressure will drop and comes to normal range. So this baroreceptors, increase in the baroreceptors, what it will do? It will also decrease the cardiac accelerated center activity, and vasomotor center activity also will be decreased when action potentials are high from this baroreceptors. In this condition, only cardiac inhibitory center will be activated. The acceleratory center and vasomotor center will be decreased. When the BP is down, baroreceptors, they will send low amount of action potential. Under such conditions, inhibitory center will not function. Acceleratory center and vasomotor centers will function. They will send signals to increase the cardiac output or a heart rate, and vasoconstriction also will be done. Vasoconstriction results in the increase in blood pressure. So vasoconstriction results in the reduction in the volume of the blood vessels. When the volume of the blood vessels is decreased, automatically BP will be increased. So in above position, in above condition, what happens? Vasodilation will be made possible, so that increased blood pressure will be decreased due to the vasodilation. When the blood vessels increase in size or the lumen will be increased, then automatically blood pressure also will be decreased. So in this way, to bring the blood pressure to normal conditions in both situations, different types of centers will be activated. When BP is increased, cardiac inhibitory center will be activated. When BP is decreased, cardiac acceleratory center and vasomotor center. Vasomotor center is related to the increase or decrease of the blood vessel lumen or blood vessel volume. So through these two types of mechanism, the homeostasis will be made possible. And this neuronal control, we have already discussed about these things. So through this baroreceptors, brain will come to know when the BP is increased. This information will be received by this 9th afferent and 10th afferent nerves. Okay. And then what happens? Through vagus nerve, vagus motor neurons, they will bring acetylcholine and they will cause to the decrease of the heartbeat rate. So when the baroreceptors, 10th afferent and 9th afferent nerves, they will send signals that blood pressure is decreased. Then what happens? Brain acceleratory center will be activated, and that will send signals through this T1 to T5 fibers to sympathetic fibers, efferent fibers, so that SCA node and AV node, both these things will, activity will be increased and PP will be increased. And another one is hormonal control. In hormonal control also, in hormonal control, both here in this thing we have seen that here what are the baroreceptors are there. Apart from baroreceptors, exactly here at this both these same regions like carotid artery and aortic artery, at this region chemoreceptors also will be there. So these chemoreceptors, they will receive information regarding the partial pressure of oxygen, partial pressure of carbon dioxide. When the partial pressure of oxygen is decreased, what happens? Heartbeat rate will be increased. Why? Because PO2, partial pressure of oxygen, when it is low, all the tissues have to receive high amount of oxygen to make that possible. Heartbeat rate will be increased. And when the PCO2 is high, then also what happens? Heartbeat rate will be increased to send excess oxygen, excess carbon dioxide from the blood. So when the PO2 is high, then heartbeat rate will be decreased. So here chemoreceptors also will be there at the in the aorta region and in this left aorta region and in this carotid regions. So these chemoreceptors, they will send the information regarding the partial pressure of oxygen and partial pressure of carbon dioxide. So brain, upon receiving these two things, what will do? Whenever there is a necessity of increasing the heartbeat rate, it will send signals to this adrenal glands. So from this adrenal glands, adrenaline hormone will be released. So this adrenaline hormone, it releases into the blood pressure, blood circulation, and through blood circulation, it reaches this SA node, AV node. When it comes in contact with this SA node, AV node, it will increase the heartbeat rate. So whenever there is a necessity of increasing heartbeat rate, adrenal will be released from this adrenal gland under the influence of nervous system only. So this gland independently it cannot work. It has to receive information from this brain only. From this brain, especially from ACTH hormones will be released from this pituitary glands. So upon receiving that information only, this adrenal hormone will be released from this adrenal gland. So in this way, chemical control, sympathetic nervous system stimulates the adrenal glands to release adrenaline, and this adrenaline causes increase in the blood pressure by acting on the AV node and SCA node. As a result, heartbeat rate will be increased. So adrenaline will be released whenever there is a necessity of increasing heart rate only, and usually this will be done under exercise conditions and stress conditions. When somebody is going to come and when somebody is coming to kill you, then what will do? Automatically our heartbeat rate will be increased. That is due to the release of adrenaline only. So psychotic factors or mental factors, mood factors are directly related to the release of adrenaline. Whenever you are indulged in a fighting, whenever you are fighting with someone, automatically then with the activity of sympathetic nervous system, adrenaline will be released, and this adrenaline will increase the heartbeat rate. Why? Because whenever you are indulged in fighting, automatically your muscles require a lot of oxygen. For that purpose, heartbeat rate will be increased to supply a lot of oxygen required for your muscles to fight with that person. And during exercise conditions also, muscles are working fastly so that they require a lot of oxygen. For that purpose, under exercise conditions also, adrenaline will be released under the influence of sympathetic nervous system. In this way, sympathetic nervous system will take place in releasing adrenaline whenever you are doing exercises or whenever you are under stress or whenever you are involving in a fight. And the factors, some other factors also cause increase or decrease in the heartbeat rates. The factors that increase the heartbeat rate, we can see in this factor in this slide. So cardio accelerated center, we have discussed about this thing. Proprioceptors, they will be present inside muscles. So when the proprioceptors are activated, then only this heartbeat rate will be increased. So sympathetic nervous system will be activated by the proprioceptor impulses only. Chemoreceptors we have already discussed. Baroreceptors we have already discussed. Limbic system, it is directly related to our emotions. Anger or stress or fear, all these things are related under the control of limbic system. Limbic system is a part of our nervous system. It is directly controls our emotions. And catecholamines, epinephrine, norepinephrine, these are only increasing the heartbeat rate. And thyroid hormone also, calcium, potassium. Calcium, whenever calcium increase, automatically heart rate will be increased. When potassium decrease and sodium, when these two things are decreased, they also directly increase the heartbeat rate. And body temperature, whenever it is increased, and nicotine, caffeine also, they also increase the heartbeat rate. Factors that decrease the heartbeat rate are cardiac inhibitory center. We have discussed about this, vagus nerve and proprioceptors. Whenever you are in a whenever you are not doing exercises, then automatically heartbeat rate is not required to increase. So in chemoreceptors, we have already discussed about this. Baroreceptors, limbic system. So whenever you are in normal position or relaxing, whenever you are happy, adrenaline is need not to be released. That's why limbic system directly decreases the release of adrenaline. And catecholamines, these will be decreased under normal conditions. So that's why only this heartbeat rate will be decreased. And thyroid hormones, whenever they are in low quantity, heartbeat rate will be decreased. And calcium, calcium, whenever calcium quantity is low in the muscles, automatically that leads to the